welcome back, welcome back. So before I go any further again, just a quick disclaimer here. This was copied from the bottom of the assignment brief or the spec, and it says overall, your work needs to be easy to read by a third party, logically structured with appropriate use of technical language and a high standard of written English throughout. Now, for some reason, BTEC have put this at the very end of the assignment brief or the very end of the specification. I personally think this should be at the very top. Before you start writing anything, you should know this, right? Another thing that they've put at the very end is that you need to provide evidence that you have demonstrated effective self management, for example, by planning your time effectively and taking individual responsibility, for example, by dealing with problems you encountered while working on this assignment. Again, another thing that should be at the very beginning of the document. This is silly to have at the end. So, what I'm going to say to you guys, this is a part of, I believe, D2 or D3. Let me scroll down and double check. Yeah, I believe it's a part of D3 where you actually have to go ahead and do some project management. So these are the things I think you should do alongside this project, okay? So bear with me here. So you need to be doing project management. So even though this comes at the very, very end of the assignment, this is something I think people need to do now. Even before P3, you can start this stuff. And whilst you're doing things, you can always update. So you're going to have like a Gantt chart, and you're also going to have like a mini logbook. What I would do, just have your document and just have some notes somewhere where you answer these questions. So I have as a heading, project management. What is it and why is it important? So you're going to go and find a nice definition, a nice explanation of it, and you're also going to reference it. I have types of project management. This is the simplest way to explain this. Just Google search types of project management methodologies or types of project management in general, and you're going to find a nice list. I literally copied this from Google. So you're going to have waterfall, agile, scrum, Kanban, lean, Six Sigma, Prince 2, extreme programming. There's going to be a big list of things that you can choose from. I would say choose the top three, top four ones, whichever ones you decide to use. I would always go waterfall, agile, and then maybe choose two or three more because those are the main ones. Now, it says here, these are my questions. Which one will you use and why? Now, the recommendation I would give is that you use some agile variant. And the reason is it's easy to make changes as and when you need to. This is your first time programming. You are likely to make mistakes and you want the ability to improve where possible. So, the good thing about agile is if you are very close to the end of your project and thought, oh, shoot, I need to go back and do something I didn't do. Waterfall, for example, is going to say, nope, you have to continue. It's too late. There's no way you can change it. The project is screwed. Otherwise, no. What Agile is going to do, Agile is going to say, actually, you can make any change whenever you want. So if you're at the very end of a project and you need to go back and make changes, that's actually perfectly okay. Go back, make the changes, add it in, and you're good to go. This is what I would do from now. I would keep a log of this. Now, even after you've chosen your agile methodology, I would go ahead and create a Gantt chart straight away. So if you guys don't know what a Gantt chart is, go on to YouTube, go on to Google, figure out a Gantt chart. But it's simply going to be a time plan of the activities you plan to do or the things you plan to do. So you have a list of requirements already. And the way I would do mine is I would probably open Excel, right? You're just going to have an Excel file. I'm going to go to blank workbook. And what I would do on the left hand side here, I would create all the tasks I need to complete. And at the top, maybe I'll do the dates that I need to complete those tasks. So, for example, I know the very, very first task I'm going to be doing. Again, speak to your teachers about this. Watch a few videos on YouTube about Gantt charts. I haven't done it extensively. So maybe the first thing I need to do when actually doing my project is learn Python. It might seem silly, but what I like to do is I like to put everything in my Gantt chart that I'm going to be doing. Learn Python basics. The very, very, very basics of Python. Let me zoom in a bit more. Learn Python basics. You can watch a YouTube video, you can follow a tutorial, whichever one you choose. I'm going to install Python, install IDE, test Python with IDE. Again, it doesn't have to be like this. Whatever tasks you want to do, you can go ahead and do that. And to be fair, I'm being excessive. I could start directly from whatever the first task is on my project that I'm doing for my IoT thing. Test Python with IDE. Then maybe the next stage is maybe, I don't know, connect Python, or if you're using C, C++, whichever programming language you're using, connect Python, IDE, and Pico, because I'm going to be using the Raspberry Pi Pico, so that's why I've said that. So test Pico with Python, so as in write a program that actually runs on there. Again, I'm being excessive. This can be my sprint one. So agile normally comes in sprints. This might be the first 2 days, the first 3 days, the first week, however long your teacher gives you. You ideally want to break that up into what's known as sprints. So this is going to be my sprint one. Okay, let's move this down one. Actually, let's move this down one so I can put the dates at the top. So here I'm going to have dates, or I'll leave it blank for now. And then my next sprint, what do I want to do next? I want to do the very first thing I have on my list. So if I go back to specification thing here, I think I have a list of things I wanted to do, right? So I needed to test things. I like testing everything. So I know I'm going to be using, I think it was a motion sensor. Let me just quickly scroll down here. Yeah, here we go. I'm going to be using LEDs, motion sensor, buzzer. Okay, let's test the simple things first. So test LED, test buzzer, test, let's say LCD, if LCD is there. One, I don't have an LCD in mind, but just in case you have one on yours, that's fine. Test the email function, LEDs, buzzer, LCD, email, test the text message function. And that's going to be my second sprint. Now, these can take as long as you want. For example, something like the LED on the buzzer should be relatively easy to test. LCD, email, and text might take a bit longer. So this is my sprint one, sprint two, and I'm going to do the next one is combine LED with buzzer. That's probably the simple. There's one thing I left off actually, motion sensor. I should probably add that. Test motion sensor. Let's insert a row. Yep. Combine LED with buzzer. That's fine. Then I'm going to combine LED buzzer LCD. Combine LED buzzer LCD. Then I can add motion sensor to all of that. Add motion sensor. After adding motion sensor and everything's working together, I'll be testing all throughout, but I like to also have a section where I test individual components just to make sure everything's working, just to make sure I can interface everything. Add motion sensor, then I can add, probably email is actually easier to add, weirdly enough. Add email to system so far. And then after that, I'm going to add text message to system. Right, so after I do all of this, these are going to be my sprints and I can stick the dates in. So I'm only giving you guys a rough layout of what you need to do. And I'm doing this before P3 again because it says you have to do some form of project management, and having to do project management and knowing about it after you finish all the other criteria is not the smartest way for the system or BTEC to do this for you guys. So this is what I would do. So again, I've got sprint one, sprint two, and sprint three, more or less. And the way this would work, simple, this is the dumbest, most simplest, weirdest Gantt chart you'll ever find. Your days are going to be across the top, or your hours are going to be across the top. So maybe do an hour for each thing. So this could be half an hour, 1 hour. And for this task, I'm only going to take, let's say, learn Python basics, maybe 2 hours. So let's shade this in. Let's do, I don't know, green. I like the green color here. Let's do 2 blocks there. All right, then I'm going to install Python. That's only going to take 1 block. And I can also learn Python basics and install it at the same time. Then I can do the IDE as well, install the IDE, test the IDE. This is roughly how a Gantt chart is supposed to look. It doesn't have to be perfect for BTEC level 3, but all this is showing is your time plan. And the time plan is what you intend to do, not what you actually done, but what you intend to do. We have to create this before we start. This is why it doesn't make sense that BTEC added this at the very, very end of the document. So this is why I'm telling you guys to get ready and do it from now. You can go and fill this in, connect Python to idle. Let's do another hour there and test Python. Let's say give that 2 of those there. And this could be your first sprint. So this could have been across the course of, I don't know, 4, 5, 10, 20 hours. It really doesn't matter. If your teacher gives you roughly 4 weeks to complete the assignment, to complete assignments B and C, I would do maybe 4 sprints. It's nice. It's nice to see sprints in roughly a week or a month or a day. It's just very easy to follow. So this could be week 1 or sprint 1, whichever way you decide to do it. This could be week 2 or sprint 2 again. Now, when I need to test my LED, let's click on that first one there, and I need to lock this left side so when I scroll across, it doesn't move. I'm going to go to view, I believe. It's going to be freeze panes, and I'm going to freeze the first column, which means that when I scroll across, my thing on the left doesn't actually move. So let's bring this in some more. All right. The next thing I want to do is test the LED. Again, that should take about an hour. Let's say build the circuit, put the resistor in, program it to flash the LED on and off. Test buzzer, more or less the same thing. Oh, actually, let's move this one down here. Buzzer, another hour or half an hour, however much time your thing is going to be. Test LCD. That might be a bit longer. LCDs are a bit more tricky to work with, especially if you're using one that does not have an I2C adapter attached to it. Test email. This is going to take a while. So let's give this 3 or 4 things. You're going to have to maybe have a Google account, a Gmail account where you have an API key and you have to import that into it's going to take a while. And maybe send text message, pretty easy. I think there's a thing called Twilio I used years and years ago. It might still be there, where you can simply create an account, a free account, and you might have like 30 text messages free for the month or the day or however it works. And let's give that 2 bars there. And the last one was test motion sensor. That shouldn't be too bad. Let's give that 2 bars as well. Why not? And this, again, this is your Gantt chart building up. So when you're screenshotting this, you can zoom out and screenshot the entire thing. You could do that. And I would do that, to be fair, at first. And then I would come in and do individual sections like this. Then I would scroll over, zoom in a bit, scroll over, and then do another individual section like this, and so on and so forth. So hopefully you guys have an idea of what the Gantt chart should look like. And again, fill this in for all the time that you plan to spend. And the whole point of this is so that when we come back to the very, very end, the D2, the D3, when we have to review what went well, because on the criteria, let me quickly go back. It says provide evidence that you have demonstrated effective self-management for planning your time effectively. A Gantt chart is the best way to do this. So even if at the end, rather than saying actually learning Python didn't take me 2 hours, it took me 5 hours instead because I've never programmed, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly okay. The Gantt chart is supposed to be a guide. And if you don't follow the guide 100%, but you still get to the same end result, you can say that. And you can also say stuff like, actually, my time management wasn't the best. So Python was supposed to take me 2 hours, but it took me 4, 4.5, 5. Installing Python was supposed to take me 1 hour, but my PC was so slow, my internet was so rubbish that it took me 2 hours instead. It doesn't matter, but please have this because BTEC is going to need to see this evidence that you've actually planned and managed your time effectively. Hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that was useful. Please, 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 please go onto YouTube. I'll try and put some links in the description as well of how to create a super basic, super simple Gantt chart. Your lecturers or teachers should be able to help you with this as well. This was just a quick overview of roughly what I think you need to do. So, on to P3.